pushes way up the racetrack, and now here comes Janzik. Janzik goes by Query, and he goes by Inman. Burnell gets a great run, another 3 wide for the race lead. It's going to drag race off of turn 4. Shepard is there, but it's Larry White at the line. Still going to be Pat Ward, and they make contact. Britton has broken the race car. AJ Slideways. Alan Johnson wins.
Whether you hug the infield tires or rip the cushion, you found the fastest dirt track podcast in motorsports. Welcome to Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of Land of Legends Raceway. Here's Stephen and Brad Ovens.
Hey fans, welcome into a bonus episode of Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of Land of Legends Raceway. Your lead announcer, Steve Ovens, here with you. Bringing in a special guest. We are getting ready to kick off DIRTcar Nationals for the big blocks this week. So who else would we talk to but the series announcer for the Super DIRTcar Series, Mike Warren, joins us. And Mike, appreciate the time and talk a little big blocks here. I feel like it was not that long ago that we were talking about World Finals, and here we are getting ready to fire the engines one more time.
It really does feel like yesterday that Borrego took the checkered flag and we were crowning Matt Williamson as the Super DIRTcar Series champion. But it's always a quick turnaround. And, with the racing going on about the last 3 weeks at Volusia, the cool thing is we're the ones that get to end it. And it's pretty cool. We're excited, and it's go time this week.
You bring up a good point about DIRTcar. Like, there's so much racing going on at Volusia that, from an event standpoint, like by the time the big blocks get there, like everybody at Volusia, like it's a well-oiled machine. Like it's rolling. Like it kind of and at the same time, I'm sure for some it might feel like Groundhog's Day at a certain level. But yeah, you're right. Like once the late models and the big blocks roll in. Like everybody's been doing this for well over a week. So it is a cool way to wrap it up.
It definitely is. It's a pretty cool event. I wish fans could see how much just goes into it with planning and all that, because obviously, it's not like we just show up and go racing that night. There's so much that goes into it. And I know that on the Land of Legends side as well, Steve. It's just an awesome event, and it's cool to see it all come together right at the end.
I've been down for it once and loved every minute of it. Like it is everything that I had always heard, in years past. I've heard Jeff Hockman talk to local, media representatives about it in interviews, and everything that Jeff always described that I'd heard for years was exactly the experience that my father and I had when we went, and so. With that, so let's say, a fan is listening to this that is coming out to Volusia for the first time. Are there things that, hey, if you're going to Volusia, like these are some things you got to do, or you got to go here, or what are some of those things that a first time fan would need to know?
Well, first off, you got to make sure you check out the concession stands. DIRTcar Nationals. There's so much of a variety. It's kind of like Super Dirt Week, where you go down and you see all these food trucks and all that. There's plenty of places to go. Ice cream stands there, pizza stand, all this really good food that you can have. It's kind of like a fair midway type thing. It's awesome. If you do get the chance to go into the pits, it's pretty cool how it's laid out as well. And I know, Steve, this. The late models will be up on the top side around turn number 1 and 2, and the big blocks are back to where the Gator Pond is, and they're all parked back there. It's just pretty cool. And then you'll see the cohesion of the drivers. You'll see late model guys talking to modified guys. It's just a pretty cool experience over 4 days. And I really think everybody's going to enjoy it. I mean, hey, going down to Florida in February, there's nothing wrong with that either. Enjoy the sun while you're down there if you're making the trip now.
Yeah, exactly. The way this winter's been up here in the Northeast, a little break in Florida wouldn't be a bad thing this week. That's for sure. You talk about how the pit is set up, and we were talking about concessions. I'd be remiss and my father'd be rolling in his grave if I didn't mention, hey, if you're gonna go in the pits this week, you cannot leave the pit area without the steak on the stick. I'm just gonna throw that out there. If you've never been to Volusia, it will be worth your trip down the hill into the Gator Pond pit area.
Absolutely. And one thing that I forgot to mention too, we have this thing in the infield called tailgatering is what we call it. You're able to take your car down there. You can sit in the truck and just watch the races in the infield. That's an awesome, unique experience at Volusia because everybody's parked outside.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I because I you do see that, if you're not there, you're watching on Dirt Vision, you do see that quite a bit. So that's a great point. Absolutely. So speaking, so we're starting up on Wednesday night. We got 4 nights of action, if I remember: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Four big nights. These are a part of the Dirt Series schedule, but Mike, I believe these are non-point events that start out the year.
Correct. It's always been a tradition. It's a non-points races down in Florida. And as you know, most of our guys are not full-time drivers. A lot of these guys are weekend warriors at the end of the day they're taking days off from work to run our races as well on midweeks at times. And it's not really a fair thing to do to ask them to take an entire week off and come all the way down to Florida when, a lot of these guys do own businesses and stuff. So you're not going to see every full-time driver there this weekend, but you will see most of them in action. And, they're going to go for a little 4 night mini series down in Florida. And I liked actually that we kick it off that way. I think it makes it just a little bit more fun to get things going. And if something goes wrong, it's not penalizing you for the rest of the year.
And talking about Volusia, like Volusia, similar to Charlotte, like yeah, we've run there for years with the series drivers, but Volusia is not, it's not one of those weekly tracks that guys have a massive notebook on like they would have up here in the Northeast. And so to me, Volusia makes Volusia a lot of fun because there's drivers that have done well there, but there's not like oh well, when you go to Fulton, this guy is gonna be the man to beat, or when you go to Canandaigua, this is the guy that you got to look for. But with that said, Mike, are there guys in Volusia by the numbers that are, ones that have really shined down in the state of Florida?
Well, there's three guys that come to mind. And I think for everybody listening, I think you already know which three I'm going to talk about because it really doesn't change that much. Stuart Friesen and Matt Shepard both have 10 wins apiece at Volusia going into this week, and Matt Williamson has 6. But most of Matt Williamson's rather have come in the last couple of years, and he's won the last 2 big gators. Those are obviously going to be your big 3 to watch, and he can win on every night. I mean, Stewie's already hot, winning 3 out of 4, and Matt getting the other one down at Alltech. So you already see that momentum rolling a little bit. But it's been Williamson consistently. He's won 4 out of the last 6 features down in Volusia. So he's been on fire over the past couple of years. Sorry, make that 3 out of 5. And, he's one of those guys where he told me this Buzz Shoe team's able to dial it in over 4 nights. But it's the same thing. There's other guys that don't have wins that I think are also starting to make a trip a little bit forward this year. Eric Rudolph's finishing the top 10 or top 5 rather in the last 6 races. Same thing with Borrego. He had 3 top 5s last year. And Borrego, I'll argue, when it comes to the Super DIRTcar series side, maybe rolling in with more momentum than anybody right now. So there's a lot of guys that can get it. And 30 laps there is a long time because a lot can happen.
Absolutely. Williamson said it. We had him on the show a week or two ago, and William, I said to Matt, I said, "What does the Volusia make it difficult in that it's not a track that we run all the time, but at the same time you have the 4 nights to work with." And Matt said, even in the years where you show up to Volusia and maybe you're just flat out slow on the first night. He goes, you give these caliber drivers 4 nights in a row to work with. He goes, people are going to figure it out. And Matt has certainly done that with those kind of numbers over the last couple of years. You talked about Williamson's got 2 big gators. And in terms of determining, like, how does the Super Dirt Car Series determine the big gator winner? Is it points like you would award on a regular series show, or is there anything different about the format?
So points for a regular series show, it's basically 4 series races wrapped up into one that just don't count for the overall point championship. New this year, no points for quick time. That is going out of the way, so we won't see any bonus points for that. But the heat race bonus points will stay 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whether you finish first, second, third, fourth, or fifth in that order. And then at the end of the night, whoever has the most point, and the Saturday rather, whoever has the most points is your big Gator champion. It comes right down as that. Whoever's the best over 4 nights.
One guy that has been in contention, and I can't remember, I probably should have looked it up before we did this, but I can't remember if Jimmy Phelps has a Big Gator championship to his credit. I think he does. Um, but that's another guy that I look to that it seemed like Jimmy, like he was not knocking down wins like some of the other guys last year, but at the same time, it seemed like they got on a pretty good roll to end 2024. I mean, he almost won Oswego, and Jimmy is, that he's not going to come out and be the guy that flashes with a bunch of wins, but he's going to be in contention every night, and that's what got him that Big Gator title. So it's that's another guy I'm kind of interested to see how do they come out of the box in 2025.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Jimmy was the 2022 Big Gator champion, and that was the one that came down right to the wire on Saturday night, which was a lot of fun to see because Britton picked up a win that year as well. And he's another guy that, if he starts getting hot, he's going to be tough to beat. But Jimmy's one of those guys, it's that veteran prowess. He's consistent. He'll be right there. Does he have bad nights like everybody else? Of course, but it's racing. There's a lot of ebbs and flows. That's going to happen. But when Jimmy's on a consistent roll, he's one of the toughest ones that you have to beat out there any given night. And like you said, you looked at the Outlaw 200 at the end of last year. It's interesting. A couple of cautions here or there, and he could be looking at two back-to-back wins to end his season right away.
No, absolutely. And what struck me too, watching Jimmy specifically at Oswego for Dirt Week was Jimmy spoke with a lot of confidence. Like I think that was something that boy, when the race car is good, that helps driver confidence a bunch. And it just seemed like, Jimmy had a lot of that at the end of last year. So Peter Britton, you mentioned another guy that a weekly runner at the Land of Legends that fans will be rooting for this week. I actually had a fan reach out and said, "Hey, what do you think about Peter's chances at Volusia?" He in the first part of his Florida trek this year. Kind of struggled, and I said, temper, those results. Peter doesn't run a lot on American racers, and now we're coming into what Peter knows and is really comfortable with on the Hoosiers with the Dirt Series. So, I don't put a lot of stock in the first part of Peter's trip, but I think he's kind of coming. I don't know if coming home is the right term, but like he's coming back into what he's real familiar and comfortable with at Volusia on the Hoosiers.
And he's been running Volusia for a number of years, so he has a bit of an idea, a baseline to get ready to come out. But it really, we say at every Super DIRTcar Series race, you got to come out and be fast right out the gate, and it's gonna matter a lot. And there's a lot of guys that are going to be fast. We saw it last year. Our rookie of the year last year, Alex Payne, struggled a little bit the first couple nights, but got in the top five on the final night. And again, we talked about giving those guys 4 nights. Now they got to try to build off that and see if they can hit the ground running this week. But I agree with you 100%. For the guys that don't really run on both tires consistently, I think it's really hard to compare results one way or the other. And it's the same thing when some of those guys comes over and race on Hoosiers. It takes a while to get used to.
You talk about Alex Payne being last year's Rookie of the Year. Do we anticipate any rookies that we'll see in Volusia, either for the first time or first time as a series rookie this year?
Matt Stengel has already signed on. He is the rookie contender as of right now. Obviously, a lot of time before we get to March 29th at New Egypt, but he'll be in Volusia for the third straight year. So we'll see if he can make a jump forward as well. A couple of guys I've noticed on the list. I expect Mike Engwer, who runs down at Lebanon Valley, he ran a few series races last year, to be down there for the first time. Bubba McPhee is signed up. He's going to run Lebanon Valley out of Rutland, Vermont, down there as well. But pretty much other than that, oh, and I forgot a big one. Amy Holland making her first trip down there along with Brendan Dara as well.
Oh,
So
awesome.
a couple
Awesome.
of drivers making their first attempts. Amy, it's all about seat time. She told me that she's looking to learn. And what better way to learn on neutral ground against some of the best in the business?
Absolutely. And Amy has definitely contended very well. I mean, she's got a Brewerton win to her credit here not that long ago, and so yeah, good for her. That's see that was something that I was hoping we would come out of this is some of those, like everybody has their favorite driver. Everybody knows those, guys that are always going to be in contention anytime they fire the engines, but this is great. Like hearing some of these drivers' names that, hey, you have your favorite driver, but if you're looking for another story to kind of pay attention to throughout the night, this is another great option to consider as you're watching the action. So that's awesome. Any other Volusia centric notes we should hit on before we get ready to fire up 4 nights here in Florida?
Well, don't count out the Southern guys either. You're gonna when I say Southern, I mean Southern part of the Northeast. We'll see Rick Laubach there, who's got a couple of wins. T-Bone's making his way back down as well. I know he's not from the Southern part, but be remiss if on the Land of Legends podcast if we didn't mention the three-time champion on here. But he's making his way down, and he's got a few wins as well. Billy Pouch Jr. He's another name that he started to get things together. We talked about those differences in tires. He's starting to get it together on Hoosiers, and he told me he doesn't race enough on them. He's hoping he's going to be able to get those notes. And, HJ Bunting's going to make a trip there, and we'll see him at Georgetown later this year as well. It's cool to see guys from every part of the Northeast that makes their way down to Volusia. And that's what I love about this event probably the most.
No, no, good stuff there. You talked about Georgetown. Let's talk about some of the series notes for 2025. We've got some tracks we're going back to, some we haven't been to in a long time. Kind of get the fans up to speed if they haven't been watching some of the off-season news about what we've got coming up on the series.
So a few changes to the schedule a little bit. There's some dates that we're going to twice that are familiar, but they're in different spots of the year. Of course, we're kicking things off at New Egypt as we did last year. It was a really good event to kick things off at the end of March. Then we're going to go to Can-Am for that traditional early April event. Then we're going to Albany, Saratoga in April, which is different. That's been a traditional June date over the past couple of years. A few new tracks coming into the fold this year. Georgetown, we're excited to get back there for the first time in a long time, making their way down to Delaware. We'll see Selinsgrove on the schedule, hopefully for the first time once again. A track I'm really looking forward to, kind of a different kind of half mile. And those guys really haven't raced there in the summer. They've raced there in the early spring many times. So I think it's going to be a little bit different than what they're used to. Cornwall and Mohawk back-to-back nights, and that kicks off a big week at the end of June and first week of July, as we'll go Cornwall Mohawk on Sunday, Monday, then turn around and run at Land of Legends on Thursday night with the traditional Stars and Stripes race, which is something I'm really looking forward to. And I know CRSA fans are going to be looking forward to that as well. Then, of course, we turn around. Summerfest is 4 nights this year. 4 nights of Summerfest. We go Weedsport, Brewerton, Land of Legends, and Fulton. The biggest one yet. It's going to be an exciting 4-race series. And, for a fan that wants to make their way up for a week, that's the perfect week to do it. You get 4 different tracks, all within about an hour from each other, give or take. And that's a lot of fun as well. We'll go to Lebanon Valley twice in the season, and we'll finish up the season with the traditional Super Dirt Week 53, and then we'll get into World Finals. So there's a lot on the schedule this year and a lot for everybody and in places all across the Northeast.
I want to hit on Summerfest quick. I mean, obviously the Stars and Stripes race for us is a big one as well, but Summerfest last year, and this is not to say that Summerfest in years past were not great. They have all been really exciting, and sometimes weather's been a challenge on some of those, but last year, the Super Dirt Car Series, like the way you guys operated Summerfest, like you guys put such a huge emphasis on the fan experience, and I thought that really showed being at the track. And a couple of points here. Number one, like the way that you guys were able to get kids involved with Farney, flagging with Farney was a huge hit. The promotions you guys did with doing a t-shirt toss and fans getting to ride in the pay, like I thought that last year's Summerfest, at least at Land of Legends, and I didn't get to some of the other events that week, but for you hit the nail on the head there. Like the Summerfest races are, those are must see races, and also to your point, I talked to several fans that day that said, "Hey, we're from, not like the Midwest, like not Knoxville area, but like we're from, several hours away. Like, so I talked to a fan from Ohio. I saw some fans that came up from New Jersey, and they did exactly that. They made a week of it, and they said we don't get a lot of big block races each year, but Summerfest we can make a trip out of it, like, and we can hit 4 races at 4 different places. And Summerfest is again, they are must-see events, but really wanted to shout out your team and working alongside with Tana and our team at Land of Let. Like I just thought that the fan experience was bar none last year.
And that's one of the biggest focus throughout the World of Outlaws Super DIRTcar series in every aspect, especially in World Race Group, that we've been trying to put a focus on. It's more than just a race; it's an event. That's the biggest thing. We want you to feel like it is an event every time you come to these races, and it starts right at DCN and goes all the way to World Finals. You want to have that feeling that you don't want to miss something, and that's the way we've had it. And you talk about the fan experience. We put a lot into those when it came to the two races we had last year, and both races were really, really good down the stretch. And we had a new champion in Summerfest as well. So many things that come together to make these events happen, but it takes a lot of people to make it work. And we're hoping to build on that and make it even bigger in 2025.
Well, definitely looking forward to that. How about Mike Warren? Let's talk about Mike Warren for a second. Because some fans when you took over as the announcer for the Super Dirt Car series, for some fans that maybe weren't familiar with where you had announced or where you had worked previously, they were kind of getting introduced to you as the series announcer. Where did everything kind of start for you? Because I have a general idea, but how did you get into race announcing to start with?
So I always say it's one of the most ironic things ever, and it happened because of an injury. So Dan Martin got into a motorcycle accident around 2010, and just couldn't get up the stairs to get to where he needed to be at Lebanon Valley to get things started. And I was interning at the ESPN radio station at the time. Somebody asked me if I wanted to try it, and the rest was history. Then when he came back, I went down on pit road. Then when Lyle DeVore and company took over Albany Saratoga, he asked me to be Dan's assistant, and it was there. And I just kept building myself up. And I was at those two tracks for a while when I went to college and moved up to Plattsburgh. I switched over to Airborne on Saturday nights just because it was a little bit closer for a little bit. But pretty much I've been on the east side of things the entire time.
What was that first night announcing like for you? I mean, you come from sports broadcast background, but doing a race event, were you a race fan prior to that, or any exposure to racing prior to that?
So I pretty much grew up at Lebanon Valley and Malta every Friday and Saturday night. That's
Okay.
where I was my entire life. So I knew all the players when I walked in pretty much because that's just what I did on Saturdays. Now, John Stanley, I got to give him all the credit in the world. He threw me into the fire. He put me on the modifieds on the first night, and I was not expecting that. And you go back, you could tell I was nervous, and it was obviously not my best showing. I mean, who is it? Your first time, it's never going to be easy. But I got better as things went along, and it worked out. But it was definitely interesting. I mean, if you would have told me that the first night I walked up and touched a microphone, I'd be announcing a race with Tremont and Hearn in it, I would have said you were nuts.
What an experience though, right? That's hey, if you're gonna get your start, like what a better way to get going, right?
Yeah, and one thing that really like Lebanon is harder than you think it is because Steve, I don't know if you've made the trek over to Lebanon Valley at all, but it's a half-mile track, but it's a way different half mile than like Land of Legends is. You have a little bit of time on the back straightaway because it's just you're flying down the back stretch and going into the corners. Racing's still good, but it's almost like your cadence changes compared to like Albany Saratoga, which is 3/8. You're on the wheel all the time, and that was something I actually had to learn between the two nights. You don't change your style up by any stretch of imagination, but it's just a different type of race.
I'll tell you, I have not been to Lebanon Valley. It's on my list. I do want to get there. And watching video from there, like I've watched a lot of video highlights and such, and I know it's a half mile, but it's just the way the grandstands are set up there, and watching some of those video highlights, it just when they come down that long front straightaway, I mean, if you took all the background visuals away, like watching them come down through in that long grandstand, it very much reminds me of the cars coming down the front stretch at Syracuse. And but I'm the reason I'm saying that and asking you this question is, Okay, I've not been there. How, from an announcer's standpoint, like, how is the view from there? Like, is it one of those you can see everything, or is because of, the layout, like, are there some spots that get a little tricky from our perspective as an announcer?
Well, to put it into perspective, Steve, for you, there's only one flight of stairs to go up at Land of Legends, right?
Yep.
There's three at Lebanon Valley. You are about as high up there as you could imagine. And I will be the first to tell you, lugging all the stuff up there every time we go there is not fun, but it's
Yeah.
that you can see over you're like so far up, you can almost see, and you're almost looking down into a bowl type of thing. So you can see everything. But at the same time, it's good to have more than one announcer in that stretch because while you're watching what's going on in one and two, we almost need the other guy to be spotting three and four towards the back of the field because it does get strung out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's I've really enjoyed watching some races on Dirt Vision from there, and have thought that the first time I make my trip there, like, it seems like there would be a lot of good different vantage points that you wouldn't want to just sit in one spot all night, because it seemed like there would be a lot of good places to catch the action from throughout the night.
There definitely is. I mean, you can hear them. It's what's awesome in turn one when you sit there, you can hear them just kind of hit the brakes and just see how they're maneuvering through the corner. But if you come off turn number four and then you sit in the front straightaway, you just get the speed in front of you. So it really is kind of the best of both worlds there.
Nice. Oh, that's cool. How about let's how about non-racing stuff? What piques Mike Warren's interest outside of all this fun racing stuff that we do?
So I'm a big hockey guy outside of racing. I play street hockey on the side. I'll attempt to. Some days it doesn't go as well as I'd hope it would, but so we have a little fun. We have a league down here in Charlotte that we play every Sunday. So I watch a lot of hockey when I'm not doing that as well. I go to a lot of checkers games, no different than when I lived up north. We're going to AHL games all the time. So love hockey. Love hanging out with my fiance all the time and the two dogs. It's just, I try to stay away from racing a little bit more when I'm not like in it, but I think it's also different. For a lot of us, we use racing as our getaway when we get away from work. Well, racing's my full-time job.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite to get away from it a little bit.
I was just gonna say, like, that definitely changes your experience, because it is that work, but and that's not to say that that's a bad thing. Like, I'm sure anybody that loves racing would love to make that their full-time gig, but yeah, like, there definitely has got to be that balance there. So that's cool. And the reason I asked you, and I was hoping you were going to bring up the street hockey, because I am so jealous, man. Like, I would, and obviously it'd be hard for, you'd only be able to do it here at certain times of the year in the Northeast. But, man, like, street hockey, floor hockey, man, I miss college floor hockey. I'm not gonna lie, man.
That I remember that missed those days too. That was a lot of fun. But I
Ah,
do like playing outside a lot more than I used to. Like you go when it's like 4 degrees outside and you go back in and it's like the gym is like 90.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. No, that's cool. Well, man, enjoy Volusia. We're getting ready to fire up on Wednesday night. Everybody be watching on Dirt Vision, without a doubt. Hey, one other question. Speaking of Dirt Vision, there was one question I wanted to ask you. Was last year, I've been getting a lot of feedback from folks that loved Dirt Zone. Like, big football fans love, the platform that the NFL uses to do something very similar. What's been the reaction in Charlotte for Dirt Zone? Because I've talked to a lot of folks up here that really enjoy it, and selfishly, I love that our drivers at Land of Legends get to be a part of that. Being partnered with Dirt Vision.
Everybody loves it. From what I've heard, it's been nothing but positive. Everything about it because I think the coolest thing about streaming. I mean, yes, you get to watch your favorite drivers every Saturday night, but now you get to see different types of racing that we really even 10 years ago we really weren't seeing every single week that we had access to. Which that's the coolest part. So in one night you can see we'll switch from this 305 feature at Land of Legends over to the World of Outlaw late models to the sprint cars based on what's running to different tracks all across the Northeast, whether it's Sharon, Land of Legends, and all that. it's just a pretty cool opportunity to just keep rolling with it. And you do have the opportunity, if you just want to watch one, you can do that too. But
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see all these different disciplines at once, and you get to see a whole different, view of racing, period, that really we only used to get in February.
I had one fan tell me that he was able to eliminate at least one TV screen because, as a race fan, if you're trying to watch as many different things as you can, I mean, we've seen all the pictures of people. I've got my laptop, I got my TV, I got my iPad, like I got all this stuff going, and yeah, Dirt Zone kind of, he laughed. He goes, "Yeah, I was able to eliminate one screen." So, but that's cool. And if you haven't checked that out, definitely recommend checking that out coming up this season. Once we get fired up and the weekly tracks are all running. But Mike, appreciate the time, man. Had a lot of fun. Covered a lot of areas here, and fans will be tuning in. That's for sure. We're excited to get the season going.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I get to see my two favorite types of cars back to back with each other, one of it's modifieds and late models. So it's one of my favorite weeks of the year for 4 nights. And I hope everybody that tunes in, and if you can't make it to the track and enjoys it, it's going to be a great 4 nights of action. We'll see who takes home that big gator.
Super DIRTcar Series lead announcer Mike Warren joining us here on Where Legends Are Made. Appreciate it, Mike.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right, that's bonus episode here for Where Legends Are Made. Coming up later this week, we've got a sit-down interview with Dylan Paddock, 305 sprint car driver who's known to, as he says, and I'm using his words, when he can't win the show, he wants to be the show. So stay tuned for that. We got Dylan Paddock coming up later this week. Thanks, folks, for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to us on all podcast platforms, and you can catch us here on Facebook and the YouTube channel.
Land of Legends Raceway fans, tune in each and every week of the racing season to Where Legends Are Made, a podcast dedicated to covering the drama, excitement, and hear from the drivers from your favorite dirt track. Stephen Ovens and Brad Ovens walk you through the week that was Where Legends Are Made. Subscribe on Apple or Google Podcasts.